happen on the field. And he can dance. He does accents. What can't Charles Woodson do? Happy
Appreciate it,
birthday,
baby.
My friend. All right. On to the Vikings-Eagles. They play in Philly today. A rematch of the 2017 NFC Championship. Minnesota struck first in that game to take a 7-0 lead, but it was all Eagles after that, scoring 38 unanswered points to reach Super Bowl 52. Our Sal Palantonio is in Philly with more on today's matchup. Sal?
Good morning, Sam. You know, the latest on Dalvin Cook is this. They are not very optimistic that he can play in this game. That hamstring injury he has in his left leg, that's the same leg where he tore his knee up. And if he can't go, it'll be Martavius Bryant who will start at running back. As for the Philadelphia Eagles, very sloppy and disappointing game in Nashville against the Titans, that implosion in overtime. So I texted Doug Peterson this morning and I said, what did you tell the team last night specifically about how to clean things up? What were your final thoughts to the team? And he said, number one, we've got to pay attention to details. Number two, we've got to start fast on offense. Number three, one play at a time. And number four, we can't give up the big plays on defense. You knew I would have a text from Doug Peterson this morning, Sam.
Good stuff, Sal. Thanks for that. Guys, this is an interesting situation with these two teams because we know about the talent that they both have, a lot of high expectations coming into this year. But, Matt, I want to know from you, when you look at the Eagles and the Vikings, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously somebody's got to lose. They could tie.
They could tie.
But after today, who do you have more concern for going forward?
I think I have more concern for the Minnesota Vikings. And, you know, really, they're off to a slower start. But to me, the biggest thing they got to figure out is this running game. I mean, you saw it last year. They could do everything they wanted to do offensively. But this year, for a host of reasons, they're not able to run the ball. And they're not even middle of the road. They're like second to last, third to last. And so they got to figure that out if they want to win the division, get to the playoffs, and ultimately win a Super Bowl, which is what this team was put together to do.
Well, how do they do that, though? They might not have Dalvin Cook out there today. They're trying to get a running game going. They've had issues on the offensive line. What can they do to turn it?
I really think, and it's an incredibly unfortunate situation, but I remember in 2010, Alex Gibbs was our O-line coach in Seattle. And he retired just week one, and we lost him. And he was our leader, and he was our rock in the running game. And in a much different way, but similar, the loss of Tony Sparano, who passed away this year. When you put together a coaching staff, you know, guys have different parts of their expertise, but this was the O-line guru in that lead. And a lot of times on a team, that O-line coach is a leader of that offense and of that team and really galvanizes everybody. And so, to me, overcoming that adversity, both emotionally, personally, but then just professionally, speaks to how good of a coach Tony Sparano was, and that's big to overcome.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and then when you kind of add on to it, Sam, the fact that the part of the team that's supposed to be the strength, the part of the team that's supposed to carry the weight for the rest of the team and bring everybody else along the defense is really struggling as well. And that started in the divisional round of the playoffs last year against the Saints, trickled over into the NFC Championship game against the Eagles, and then who do they play again today? They play the Eagles. And it's big plays, and it's when they're playing single safety middle defenses, whether it's man or matchup zone. And here you see they're going to run some switch concepts, the Packers are, against the flat defender to really test whether or not he knows what is going on as far as the route development. And you see it here. They're turning people loose. The corner, Xavier Rhodes, on the outside isn't playing with good vision, can't help out. And that's a problem. Here you got three tight ends to the bottom of the screen, and you got Robert Woods at the top of the screen against Anthony Barr. And here you look, where is the free safety here? Why are you not shading the top of the screen where you have speed on a linebacker? And these are the kind of things that you're seeing show up over and over again. It's not because they don't have the players, because the players aren't playing very smart, and they play a lot of very basic coverages, and teams know how to attack these things now, and they're not adjusting. Seattle went through the same type of thing, Rex, we talked about it. Teams that like to play a lot of single safety high is either cover three or it's cover one. It's either man or zone or matchup zone, and teams now know how to attack that stuff. And if you aren't on it as far as what your pattern matches are, this is what happens. Teams attack you right down the field with verticals, and you give up big plays. And they're one of the worst teams in the NFL defending the deep ball.
Which is shocking from a Mike Zimmer defense, because as you said, when he was brought in, that was the sell, as this guy was going to turn around their defense, which we've seen in the last few years. But Rex, I also want to know from you, because when you look at this Philly team and the concerns that they're having starting off early this year, is it time to, I'm not saying you would ever panic, but is it time to get nervous about what this season's going to end up like, especially because Carson Wentz doesn't yet look like who he was, which of course is to be assumed after coming off of that injury?
I think the biggest concern is with their defense. And the only time this defense plays well, it seems like, is when they play at home. You know, they become, braver at home. And it's statistically, it's night and day different. But why they can't bring that same intensity on the road is beyond me. So that would be a concern that I would have if I was an Eagle, fan or whatever. But, they're playing at home today, and watch the difference. They'll bring pressure. The communication seems to be better for whatever reason. And it's just something they got to get by, because they don't have the best record in football. They're not getting back to the Super Bowl.
And the difference last year when these two teams met, guys were open, just like you're showing.
Yeah.
But that pass rush was real. You saw sack fumbles, you saw sacks, you saw a quarterback getting ready to throw a touchdown pass, and yet it's a turnover going the other way. And so that's the difference. That's the cure for bad pass coverage in the back end, is just getting home with 4.
And they still have the horses up front. Now, those guys still, can bring it.
Yeah, I think it's assumed that Carson will start to hit his stride and the offense will open up. But I'll tell you this, right now, through the first month of the season, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL at producing explosive plays. They're not getting the ball down the field. Alshon Jeffrey, so much is riding on him to be able to stretch the third level of the field here. Because right now, a lot of the stuff is short. Teams are kind of coming up on them now and not really expecting their ability to get deep. And last year they got deep whenever they wanted to, especially against this team. That's why it's a great matchup, because the Eagles need it in terms of getting the ball over the top. And the Vikings got to find a way to stop it. So something's got to give in this game.
Yeah, they're going to have to try and find a way, of course, without Everson Griffin, a guy that made such a huge impact on their defense. I know
it to return to the Vikings, quote unquote, anytime soon. Another person said that Griffin, quote unquote, could be back next week or could never play again. You just don't know when it comes to mental health. It's not like this is a hamstring injury where doctors have seen it before and know that it heals in 2 to 4 weeks. This is something that's unpredictable, and right now the Vikings don't know when they'll get back their 30-year-old, 3-time Pro Bowl defensive end.
And despite their lofty expectations, especially on defense, Griffin's absence is huge. And then you take into this fact, Mike Zimmer, the head coach, is also the defensive coordinator. He's been concerned for a few weeks about their lack of depth. They've had to sign a lot of guys to big contracts. Then they lost 39-year-old Terrence Newman. And we all wondered, why was Terrence Newman still playing at 39? And he was doing so much as a nickel corner, which is a place where you need veterans, you need that communication, and you need him to help coordinate back there, because they are thin in that secondary right now. And Terrence Newman is not playing nickel anymore, but he is their nickel cornerback coach. He actually coaches the cornerback. So getting that communication down back there, obviously being thin up front, Anthony Barr having to cover some. Today, I think you see Anthony Barr with his hand down.
So there you go, Sam. No Griffin, no depth, no Newman. A lot of problems right now for the Vikings defense, Sam.
A lot of problems. All right, thanks, guys. Coming up on